I have some book recs based on your favorite TV shows and one TV show that I need help figuring out a book rec for. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Angela Ann, the friend of all the good YA book recs and literary lifestyle tips. Today we're going to be going over a list of 8 of my favorite TV shows and books that you should read if you also like those TV shows. I also have a 9th TV show that I absolutely adore, but couldn't think of a book equivalent of, so I will say it at the end, and then I would love to know what book you think is like that TV show down in the comments. I also have done a couple of these sorts of videos over on Book Talk before, and I will probably do either some TikToks of these or a part 2 over here on BookTube. So please also put your favorite TV show down below if I don't mention it in this video, because I will hope to do this again in the future. I don't know why, but I really enjoy making these in TikTok form, and I have a feeling I'm going to be enjoying making this in a BookTube video. The first TV show I wanted to cover is my absolute favorite TV show of all time, and that is Parks and Recreation. If you like Parks and Recreation, I highly recommend checking out Red, White, and Royal Blue. The reason why I say this is because Parks and Recreation has a lot of like cutesy government humor and it's very quirky, and this book also is very political and has a lot of very quirky humor to it. And while the politics is on a very different scale, this book is the love story of the son of the first female US president and a prince of England, and that is very different than Parks and Recreation, which takes place in a small town in Indiana in the Parks and Recreation department. But I do think that they have kind of similar vibes, so I would definitely recommend checking out this book if you like Parks and Rec. One of my other favorite TV shows is The Good Place, which is also kind of a comedy sitcom, but with a really odd twist of the main characters are actually in the afterlife in the show. And I don't want to give too much away because there is a huge plot twist at the end of season 1, but if you enjoy that TV show, I definitely recommend checking out The Program by Suzanne Young. This is a book about a dystopian world where teenagers are extremely suicidal, so they're sent to a program which rewires their brain in order that they don't have those sorts of feelings anymore, but all the kids who come back from this program are very different than they used to be. So this book is a really great dystopian series. I think there's like 6 books in this series, and they are all such page turners. One of my favorite TV series when I was younger was The 100, and while there is a book version of The 100, I've heard it's not very good. So I wanted to recommend kind of a dark dystopian story with rebellious teenagers, which I feel like kind of fit that 100 vibe. So I chose This Mortal Coil by Emily Savada. This Mortal Coil is about life after a deadly disease wiped out a lot of humanity, and our main character was the daughter of the geneticist who was supposed to find the cure to this disease. However, he mysteriously disappeared before he could find the cure. One day, a soldier, a very attractive young soldier, shows up on her doorstep and says that her father's dead and he left behind a series of clues to the vaccine, and she's the only one who can find it. This just has very 100 vibes because it's kind of like a road trip in a very dystopian dark world. So if you like the 100, I really feel like you're gonna like this book. Another favorite sci-fi show of mine is Black Mirror. I absolutely loved Black Mirror. I did not enjoy the last season as much as the first couple. Hopefully the next season will be better, but nonetheless I thought it was just such a cool concept because it is sci-fi, but every episode's its own story and they deal with different ways that the near future could go wrong. So a book that is about the near future and kind of a morbid piece of technology is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. In this world, there's this thing called Deathcast, and Deathcast sends you a message on the day you're going to die saying you're going to die that day. It sends a message at midnight, but doesn't tell you what time you're going to die that day or how you're going to die that day. They Both Die at the End follows 2 boys, Rufus and Mateo, who both get a message on the exact same day, and they seek each other out in order to have kind of like a friend for their final day on Earth and slowly start to fall in love. Well, not slowly, because the entire story takes place in a day, but you get the idea. This book is so good. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. And if you like Black Mirror and kind of that near future-y vibes, you definitely need to check out this book as well as almost everything Adam Silvera has written. A show I watched recently and absolutely loved was Emily in Paris. There's only 1 season out of this show. It's been announced that there's going to be another season, but it's so fun. It's about this American who goes over to do social media for a marketing agency in Paris, and yeah, that's basically the entire plot of the show. It's a very tropey show, but also kind of just like a serotonin hit, and so I decided on a book that was a serotonin hit and takes place in Paris. If you haven't guessed already, the book book I'm going to recommend is Anna and the French Kiss. This is a slightly older book, but it is absolutely amazing. Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins follows this girl named Anna, and her dad sends her to a boarding school in Paris. Well, at this boarding school, she meets this really attractive, fun Frenchman, and of course there's a semi-love story, but he has a girlfriend, I think. Yeah, he has a girlfriend. So basically, now that I'm reviewing the plot of this book, I'm wondering if Emily in Paris just took the plot and then made it into an adult story instead of a young adult story. Nonetheless, if you like Emily in Paris, you are going to love Anna and the French Kiss. Next up, we have another Netflix show. I watch a lot of Netflix shows, but it's the one Never Have I Ever. The show was created by Mindy Kaling, and it follows the life of a super awkward Indian American teenager as she just goes through awkward teenager things. So a book that came to mind that's kind of like awkward teenager things is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Leah Johnson just really captures the awkwardness of being a teenager very well in this book. And this book I talk about literally all the time. I talked about it in my favorite romance books video, which is a really great video for romance recommendations. I will link it up above. Basically, this book is about a girl who has to run for the prom queen position because it comes with a scholarship that would allow her to go to university. The only issue is that she starts to fall in love with one of the competitors, and that is definitely not allowed in this small conservative Indiana town. This book is amazing, and I really just love how Leah Johnson can capture being an awkward teenager so well. So I know I said that all these are my favorite TV shows, but this next one isn't my favorite TV show, but it is one of the first TV shows that came to mind because it is so closely related to this book recommendation. For those of you who don't know, I'm not really a fan of reality TV shows, including this one, even though I know it is probably like the most popular reality TV show out there, and that is The Bachelor. If you haven't guessed what book series correlates to The Bachelor yet, it is The Selection by Kiera Cass. This book is basically The Bachelor in a dystopian America. Our main character, whose name, ironically, is America, has to go and compete for the prince's heart against 35 other girls. So whoever wins the competition gets to marry the prince. So like I said, The Bachelor, but in a dystopian America. What makes it so dystopian is that it takes place in a future where America has a monarchy again. I probably should have said that first, but I didn't. If you love guilty pleasure TV shows like The Bachelor, you're really going to love The Selection. And even if you don't like The Bachelor, because I don't, you will also love The Selection. It's just a great book series, and I think it's coming out into a movie soon too. One of my favorite historical fiction shows of all time is Downton Abbey, and so I was thinking about what my favorite historical fiction book would be, and at first I thought those two weren't really related, so hear me out on the explanation for this one. If you like Downton Abbey, then try The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. So at first these don't seem very related just because this is a wild escapade by a British playboy around the European continent during the 1700s. Downton Abbey, if you don't know, is about a English manor house in the 1910s and just kind of adapting to the 20th century as a feudal English manor house. So at first these don't seem very related, but what I think they both do is they have a super fun plot line and a very realistic look at the time period. They also deal with a lot of niche issues that people weren't necessarily talking about. So Downton Abbey deals a lot of like women's issues and stuff like that I don't think a lot of people really study about that era. It doesn't necessarily deal with the giant world wars or anything like that. And this book as well doesn't deal with like the French Revolution or anything else that was going on in the late 1700s. It instead deals with LGBT issues. The second book in this series, A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy, is also amazing. So I love both of these books, and in general, if you like any historical fiction, I really think you're going to enjoy this series. The last sitcom I wanted to mention in this is New Girl. I love New Girl. It is such a great show, and to me, what New Girl captures is what I expect. I'm not in my late 20s yet, but New Girl to me captures what I expect my late 20s will be like. It's just so quintessentially late 20s. It deals with kind of like the trials, the tribulations, the ups, the downs, the wild adventures that take place when you're in your 20s and you're young and single in a big city. When I was thinking about books that capture kind of that late 20s wild adventureness too, I thought of this book first, and it is The Boyfriend Project by Farah Rokon. It is about a girl who works in tech in Austin, Texas, and she starts to fall in love with one of her new coworkers, but Days before she meets this new coworker, she promised two of her new friends that she wasn't going to date anyone. So the three of them all made a pact to not date anyone and try to find themselves. And then of course she meets this super attractive guy, and that's where the story takes off. It is just super fun, super quintessentially late 20s. It takes place in another big city, Austin, Texas, so not as big as LA like New Girl, but still kind of that big city vibes. So I highly recommend checking this one out. Literally, I think I say I highly recommend checking this one out after like all of them. I recommend checking out all these books. That's just it. I should stop saying that in my videos. The TV series that I've been loving lately is Gilmore Girls. I haven't finished it yet, so please no spoilers. However, I couldn't think of a book series that was similar to Gilmore Girls. I don't know why, but I just can't think of a single book series or book I've ever read that reminds me of Gilmore Girls. So if you know any books that are similar to Gilmore Girls, please put them in the comments down below. And like I said at the beginning of the video, please put down below any TV shows you want to see in a part 2 of this, either here or over on TikTok, depending on what I'm feeling like doing. But thank you all again so much for watching this video. I post book-related videos twice a week, so if that sounds interesting to you, definitely subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, give it the thumbs up, and I will see you down in the comments for all the TV show book discussions.